We trust our technology to be rational. Cameras record what's in front of them. Sensors measure what exists. Systems operate according to logic, code, predictable cause and effect. So when technology fails, we assume it's a bug, a glitch, a hardware issue that maintenance will eventually fix. We don't stop to ask the uncomfortable question, what if it's not failing? What if it's working exactly as designed, and what it's showing us is something we're not equipped to see? What if the glitch is the message? Here's the thing most people don't want to think about. Places remember, not metaphorically, not poetically, actually physically remember. Trauma, crisis, moments of extreme intensity, they leave marks. Not just on the people who experience them, but on the environment where they occur. The walls, the foundation, the air itself, and sometimes decades later, those marks resurface. Not as full-blown hauntings or paranormal theatrics, but as tiny repeating anomalies. A camera that stutters at the same time every week. A temperature drop that happens on schedule. A smell that appears and vanishes for no logical reason. The kind of thing you'd ignore if you weren't paying attention. This channel is built on the belief that the most important patterns are the ones we're trained to dismiss. A 4-second glitch? That's nothing. A weekly camera malfunction that every diagnostic says shouldn't exist? Probably just a quirk. Except when it's not. Except when someone takes the time to track it, to document it, to sit in the moment it happens and feel what the sensors are recording. That's when the pattern stops being noise and starts being a story. A story about what this place used to be. About what happened here. About what the building refuses to forget. So here's what you're about to hear. The story of a security guard named David Chen, who spent 11 years watching monitors in a quiet office building and who noticed something no one else had. Camera 7, third floor stairwell, glitched every Thursday at exactly 11:34 p.m. 4 seconds of pixelation. 60 seconds of normal operation. Then nothing until the next Thursday. For months he documented it. For weeks he tested it. And when he finally understood what those 4 seconds represented, it changed the way he thought about memory, place, and what technology is actually capable of witnessing. If you're ready to see what happens when you stop ignoring the glitch and start listening to it, let's begin. Camera 7, southeast stairwell, third floor landing. Every Thursday at 11:34 p.m., the feed would glitch. Not a full blackout, just a stutter, a brief pixelation that lasted exactly 4 seconds, then resolved back to the normal empty stairwell. The timestamp would skip from 11 hours 34 minutes and 18 seconds to 11 hours 34 minutes and 22 seconds. 4 seconds gone, and the image would be slightly different when it came back. A shadow in a different position. The emergency exit signs glow a fraction dimmer. Small things. Things you'd miss if you weren't watching closely. But David Chen had been watching security monitors for 11 years, and he'd learned to notice what didn't belong. And this precise repeating anomaly that happened only on Thursdays, only at 11:34 p.m., only on camera 7. Didn't belong. The first time it happened, David assumed it was a technical issue, cameras glitch, systems hiccup. But when it happened again the next Thursday at the exact same time, he started paying attention. By the 9th week, he documented every instance in a spreadsheet. Date, time, duration, camera feed, weather conditions, building occupancy. The pattern held, no exceptions. And the strangest part? Every diagnostic test came back clean. The camera worked perfectly. The wiring was sound. The recording system showed no errors. It was as if the building itself had a scheduled appointment with something his equipment could unquite capture. Here asked the question that kept David awake on his overnight shifts. What happens in those 4 missing seconds? And why does technology precise, logical, deterministic technology fail at the same moment every week, as if something is demanding that specific window of time remain unwatched? David Chen was 39 years old, had worked security at the Hartfield office complex for 11 years, and could identify which tenant was working late just by the pattern of lights in the windows. He sat in a windowless room on the ground floor, surrounded by 16 monitors showing feeds from 42 cameras positioned throughout the 12-story building. Most nights were uneventful, watching cleaning crews vacuum conference rooms, late working accountants pacing while on phone calls, the occasional couple stealing time in a supply closet. David didn't judge. He just watched. That was the job. See everything, intervene when necessary, document anything unusual. Over a decade, unusual had mostly meant broken door locks, tripped fire alarms, and one memorable incident involving a possum in the mailroom. Why did David care so much about the details? It wasn't paranoia or boredom, it was pattern recognition as a form of meditation. The building had a rhythm, and David had learned to read it the way a musician reads sheet music. He knew the voice cycled down at 11 p.m. in the East Wing, but stayed active until midnight in the West. He knew the elevator in the North Bank made a grinding sound on the 7th floor that maintenance kept promising to fix. He knew camera 12 in the parking garage had a blind spot near a column. J-7 that teenagers sometimes used for exactly what you think. These weren't just random facts. They were the language of the building, and David was fluent. His routine was structured around quiet observation. 10 p.m. Evening walkthrough, checking that all public areas were secure. 11 p.m. Return to the monitor room, settle in with coffee, scan all feeds in sequence. Midnight. Second walkthrough, focusing on stairwells and basement access. 2 a.m. The deep quiet when even the late workers went home and the building exhaled. That's when David did his most focused monitoring, watching for the things that only revealed themselves when the human noise dropped away. It was during one of these late night scans on a Thursday in February that camera 7 glitched for the first time. And David cursor hovering over the rewind button, felt the first tickle of something his 11 years of experience couldn't explain. The first glitch happened on Thursday, February 9th at 11:34 p.m. David was doing his hourly scan, clicking through each camera feed, spending 5 to 10 seconds on each before moving to the next. Camera 7 showed the southeast stairwell, third floor landing. It was a boring feed. Gray concrete steps, metal handrail, a red emergency exit sign, and a fire extinguisher mounted on the wall. Nobody used that stairwell at night. It led to a section of the building that was mostly storage. David clicked to camera 8, then paused. Something in his peripheral vision had registered wrong. He clicked back to camera 7. The image was normal now, but the timestamp had jumped. 11 hours, 34 minutes, and 22 seconds. 4 seconds had passed, but David hadn't seen them. He rewound the footage. At 11 hours, 34 minutes, and 18 seconds, the feed pixelated, the image breaking into blocky artifacts, colors bleeding at the edges. For 4 seconds, the picture was unstable, like a corrupted video file trying to load. Then, at 11 hours, 34 minutes, and 22 seconds, it snapped back to clarity. David leaned closer to the screen. The stairwell looked the same, but not quite. The shadow cast by the handrail was in a slightly different position, even though the light source hadn't moved. The emergency exit sign seemed dimmer, though that could have been compression artifacting. He noted in the shift log, camera 7, brief signal disruption, 11:34 p.m., duration approximately 4 seconds, no apparent cause. Then he ran a diagnostic on the camera. Everything came back normal. He forgot about it until the next Thursday. Same time, 11:34 p.m., same camera. David happened to be watching camera 7 directly when it glitched. This time, he saw it happen in real time. The image stuttered, pixelated, held in a state of visual static for exactly 4 seconds. He counted, then resolved. His first thought was interference. Maybe someone in the building was using equipment that caused electromagnetic disruption on a weekly schedule. A server backup? A cleaning machine with a faulty motor? But the timing was too precise. Equipment failures don't keep appointments. He made a note. Camera 7 glitch repeated. Same time, same duration. Investigate pattern. By the 6th Thursday, David had a spreadsheet. Column A, date. Column B, time. Always 11 hours, 34 minutes, and 18 seconds p.m. Column C, duration. Always 4 seconds. Column D, camera. Always camera 7. Column E, building occupancy, varied, sometimes empty, sometimes 3 to 4 people working late. Column F, weather, no correlation rain, clear, snow, didn't matter. Column G, phase of moon, he was getting desperate. Column H, notes, the pattern was absolute, every Thursday. Never Tuesday or Saturday. Never 11:33 or 11:35, always 11:34 p.m. Always 4 seconds. Always camera 7. David started testing variables. On Thursday, March 23rd, he unplugged camera 7 at 11:30 p.m. and plugged it back in at 11:40. The recording showed a gap during the unplugged period, but no glitch because the camera wasn't active. On Thursday, March 30th, he left the camera running and positioned himself physically in the stairwell at 11:32 p.m., standing directly in the camera's view. He waited, watching his phone's clock tick toward 11:34. At 11 hours 34 minutes and 18 seconds, he felt nothing, no sound, no temperature change, no visible light fluctuation. Just the normal hum of the building's ventilation system and the distant sound of a vacuum cleaner 3 floors down. He stayed until 11:36, then returned to the monitor room and checked the footage. The glitch had happened. 4 seconds of pixelation, exactly as always. In those 4 seconds, his own image in the frame had been distorted, stretched slightly, like he'd been pulled through a filter he couldn't perceive while standing there. The most unnerving discovery came in mid-April. David had started reviewing the archive footage, going back months before he'd first noticed the pattern. Camera 7 had been installed 3 years ago as part of a building-wide security upgrade. David pulled footage from every Thursday since installation. The glitch was there. Every single Thursday, 11:34 p.m., 4 seconds, going back 156 weeks. He'd been watching these feeds for years and had simply never noticed it until February. The anomaly wasn't new. It had been waiting, patient, and consistent for someone to pay attention. The night shift at the old Westfield Mall was usually my time to catch up on podcasts. Just me, the hum of the servers, and a wall of monitors showing empty hallways. But for the past week, something was off. Every night, at precisely 3:13 a.m., camera 14 would glitch. It wasn't a normal flicker or a signal drop. For exactly 7 seconds, the feed would be replaced by a distorted, chaotic scene. It looked like people running, shouting, but it was too pixelated, too fast to make out any details. Then, just as suddenly, it would snap back to the quiet, empty food court. My boss, Dave, just shrugged it off. "It's an old system, Mike. Probably a power fluctuation. Just log it and move on." But I couldn't. It was the timing, 3:13 a.m. every single night. It felt intentional. So I started digging. The maintenance logs showed nothing. No power surges, no system reboots. I checked the camera's internal memory, but it was clean. It was like the glitch never happened, except for my own handwritten notes and the weird feeling in the pit of my stomach. Driven by a mix of curiosity and a little bit of late-night boredom, I decided to pull the archive footage from a year ago. I fast-forwarded through hours of empty food court scenes. Nothing. 2 years ago, same thing. I was about to give up, thinking Dave was right, when I decided to try one more time. I went back 5 years. I scrolled to the date to the early morning hours and I hit play. At 3:13 a.m., the screen didn't glitch. It showed the real thing. The footage was horrifying. a sudden panic. People screaming, scrambling over tables. A fire had broken out in one of the kitchens. In the center of the frame, a security guard was desperately trying to guide a small, lost-looking family toward an exit. I watched, my heart pounding, as they disappeared into the smoke just as a section of the ceiling collapsed right where they had been standing. The timestamp on the footage froze at 3:13 and 7 seconds, the exact duration of my nightly glitch. I felt a chill run down my spine that had nothing to do with the office air conditioning. The camera hadn't just malfunctioned. It had recorded a moment of intense trauma, a crisis frozen in time. The raw emotion, the sheer panic of that event, had somehow imprinted itself onto the system, like a digital ghost. This glitch wasn't a technical error. It was an echo, a memory replaying itself over and over. The next night, I sat at my console and waited. As the clock ticked towards 3:13 a.m., I didn't feel scared anymore. I felt a strange sense of reverence. The screen flickered, showing the chaotic 7 seconds of history. I saw the guard, the family, the smoke. When the image reverted back to the peaceful, present-day food court, I whispered into the quiet room, "I see you. You're not forgotten." I compiled my findings and sent them to corporate. Not just about the glitch, but about the guard, who I learned had perished that night after saving that family. I suggested a small plaque, a memorial to honor his sacrifice. A few weeks later, they installed one right under camera 14. And you know what? The glitches stopped. At 3:13 a.m., the feed from camera 14 remains perfectly clear, showing nothing but an empty, quiet hall. Sometimes technology remembers things we've tried to forget. It reminds us that behind the code and the circuits, there are human stories. Thanks for watching. If you found this story as fascinating as I did, hit that subscribe button for more deep dives into the unexplained. See you next time. Let's step back and look at what David actually discovered. Camera 7's 4-second glitch every Thursday at 11:34 p.m. wasn't a malfunction. It was a recording of a different kind. The building, the physical space where the Hartfield office complex now stands, was marking the exact moment a fire alarm went off in the textile factory that used to occupy that land. April 1994, 11:34 p.m., a Thursday. The crisis moment was so intense, so charged with energy and fear and sudden disruption that it left an imprint, not on paper, not in human memory, but in the environment itself. And decades later, technology sensitive enough to detect electromagnetic fluctuations, air pressure changes, and particulate matter was picking it up. The glitch wasn't the camera failing. It was the camera succeeding capturing something real that human senses mostly couldn't perceive. What does that mean for how we think about the places we occupy? It means history isn't just something we read about. It's something we live inside. The rooms we work in, the buildings we pass through, the spaces we think of as neutral and empty, they're not. They're layered with the residue of everything that's ever happened there. Most of the time, we don't notice. But sometimes, if the conditions are right and the technology is sensitive enough and someone is paying close enough attention, the layers become visible. A 4-second window into a moment that technically ended decades ago but never fully left. Here are 2 exercises to try this week. Exercise 1. The technology audit. Pick one piece of technology you use daily: your phone, your computer, a security camera, a thermostat. For 7 days, note any recurring anomalies. Does your Wi-Fi drop at the same time each evening? Does a specific app crash on Tuesdays? Does your smart speaker activate without prompting at a certain hour? Don't dismiss these as random. Track them. See if there's a pattern. Technology often sees things we don't. Exercise 2. The threshold moment. Identify one place you pass through regularly that feels subtly different at a specific time. A hallway, a stairwell, a room. Spend 5 minutes there at that exact time for 3 consecutive days. Don't do anything, just be present. Notice temperature, sounds, smells, the quality of light. Write down what you sense. By day 3, you might start to feel what the space is holding. Now, the questions. Have you ever experienced a recurring technological glitch that defied logical explanation? What was it, and did you ever figure out why? Do you believe places can remember traumatic or significant events? Or is that just our pattern-seeking brains finding meaning in randomness? If you discovered that a glitch in your environment was linked to a historical event, would you want to investigate further, or would you prefer not to know? Share your experiences in the comments. I'm genuinely curious what your technology has been trying to tell you. If stories like this, where observation, data, and mystery intersect, speak to you, consider subscribing and turning on notifications. Quiet Witnesses is here to remind you that the world is stranger and more layered than we usually allow ourselves to notice. Sometimes the glitch is the doorway. You just have to be watching when it opens.